Mailbag, Joe. We've got a handful that were thrown in. Some expected, some that are a little off the beaten path. But we'll start here with Steve Hoaglund. With Wallstedt struggling in Iowa, do you think it was a mistake to basically tell him he'd be on the team this year? The plan obviously changed with how well Gus is playing, and it sure seems like it may have gotten in his head.
Well, yeah, we talked to him a few weeks back on the pod, and he admitted that it was a mental hurdle for him going into the year because of all the excitement that was built up late last season with his call up in his first NHL win. And, basically Garen was telling everybody from us to the people at the state fair or whatever that there'd be a 3-goalie rotation. That was initially the plan. They wanted to get him more games, but I think I don't know what it was told to him as far as I'm sure they didn't tell him it was guaranteed or this was going to happen no matter what, but I think it got into his head a little bit to where he said a little bit of a letdown going back to Iowa and had to reset himself from what the expectations were. The key for me is he's such a very mature kid for his age and he's mentally strong. So I think that shouldn't break him this season. I know this has been a rough go, or at least the first couple of starts kind of hurt his goals against average and stuff. But I think, I think it was a mistake in general, just thinking that the 3-goal rotation was going to work in the first place versus just telling him this. Cause I think their idea, if they didn't have injuries and that was for him to rotate in and play more games. But they also said whoever was leading them to wins was going to play more. And that was probably what even Jesper believed himself. He's I don't blame him for not calling me back up. Things are going too good. So yes, I think maybe the first mistake was maybe envisioning this 3-goalie rotation, maybe vocalizing it a little too much.
Sure.
Because if it was more so they might have thought that or think, oh, maybe this might work, but then being more cautious and saying, unless they thought that would be something that kind of sparked either Fleury or Gustafsson, right? Maybe that was something that was Gustafsson, who already had a chip on his shoulder going into the season, all of a sudden played lights out. You're well, no one's getting that from him. So there's no rotation.
I agree with 90% of what you said there, but I think the key difference is if it's to nudge, Flower and Gus, get it. If it's a matter of hey, we're going to throw this out as a competition, see what happens, get it. He's probably a little more bummed because he didn't even get a chance to make his statement. He didn't get to play. And it's when you're told you get your contract this summer a year early and you're told, get a place up here because this is where you're going to be. I think that was the missed mark. It's okay to say this is going to be an open competition, 3-goalie rotation. We'll see what happens. Whoever plays the best gets it. But I think the one that messes with his head is when they're get a place up here. You're going to be up here. And then it's oh yeah, you're figuring out a living situation down in Iowa, everything we told you or that you expected, whether it's what we told you or you made up in your head, that's just gone now because of how good Gus is playing. So I think I agree with most of it. It's just the step of being get a place up here because this is where you're going to be. I think that maybe was where they missed the mark. I would have gone the other way, been there's a good chance you end up here, and I'm sorry, maybe you're going to be in a hotel or you're going to be living with some of the other guys. But having the place in Iowa almost would have pushed him and urged him a little bit more versus, hey, get a place here because you're going to be up here.
Yeah. And again, I think, I don't know all the specifics on what exactly was told. Did they actually said this is your place? I think he was probably given the idea of, hey, just for preparation purposes, hey, you can know that you'll be a good chance to be up here. So it might make sense to have one. I think that is obviously something that gets into guys' heads a bit in terms of you want to make sure that you are prepared at every part of your life to play in the NHL. But I think if you told him right now, he'd have to, sleep in the booth at Red Cow. I think he would do it, and I think he would play pretty well. So yeah, I think it's another really good test for him. I think overall as a top prospect, that we know his time is coming. We know it's going to be here before you know it. But this might be just one of the little blip on the radar for him going forward, and it's worked out well for the Wild. Of they wanted to go to take the the net and run with it, and Gustafsson has. And you're looking at right now is a Gustafsson and Wallstedt tandem next year, and which would be really, really, really good.
No, I'm with you on that. All right, this next one is a lot to unpack. Geno Spenser says, I've got a question, and then tagged LaPanta and Ryan Carter, and then says, why are expectations for a 19-year-old on a horrible team higher than a number one center on a playoff lock? Bedard is being rightfully but heavily criticized for only having 15 points. When will Minnesota hold their number 14 Ek and his 9 points to a higher standard? What say you, Joe?
Well, Bedard is a generational prospect player that's going to be a savior of a franchise, right? And he's playing in Chicago or whatever. Like, the expectations or hype around him is going to be much higher no matter what, just based upon the fact that he is the only ticket in town, basically, in Chicago. No slight on Captain Nick Foligno, who is a wonderful human being and great player. And like,
I love how you go to Foligno on that.
They have also have good players. Like Pat Maroon's one of my favorite people in the game, like whatever. But like,
he's awesome.
Connor Bedard is the future, right? And was like in that McDavid realm of like hype going into the draft. So Eriksson Ek took a different route to get there, and he is extremely important to the Wild. And anybody who watches them or scouts them will tell you he's probably the most irreplaceable player on the team. So I think it's not a slight that they're like, oh, well, why isn't he not having more than nine this or 9 that? Like, his value goes way beyond the point totals or the goal totals. And if he plays on the line with Kaprizov and Boldy more often, he'll get more points. But I think that just not that Ek is that much, quote unquote, worse of a player than Bedard. It's just the expectations were set at a certain level from the beginning with the guy who's going to build a franchise around. Yeah. And Ek is a cornerstone of this team because of how important he is. But it's just a whole different mindset to me. No one's going to question Ek's overall impact on the game or overall importance based on the fact that he doesn't have that many points right now. Yeah,
completely different players. And it's a stretch to even say that Ek is the 1C, right? Like, he's played, 2 games on the first line? And I think there's a difference, too, where his impact defensively, light years beyond what Bedard is doing. And that's not what you're expecting from Bedard, but that's just like to show, like, you're getting different things from both guys. And I don't really care what his points are if the line that he's driving is scoring. Like, the team's winning. You're not going to ever complain about a player not scoring when the team is winning, except for everyone about Trenin, but we won't dive back into that wormhole. But I don't know. I just think it's completely different players. Like, you hold them to completely different standards for a reason. I'm not worried about X production whatsoever.
I'm not worried about Bedard either. I mean, he'll be a heck of a player. But yeah, Eriksson Ek is one of those guys that,
Well, actually, I'm going to save it for hot takes. I got another hot take for us, Joe. We'll save it for, All right, we'll get back to that. From our good friend, Tim Johnson. That's right, the proprietor of Barrel Theory Beer Company. So we're about a quarter of the way through the season. What do the Wild have to do to become an actual playoff contender? I know it's early. Seems like we can't beat Dallas and we can't beat the Jets. Like, seems like a decent problem to have. Is it just as simple as, like, we just have to beat each of them at least once this year to just, like, tell ourselves in our mind that it can be done? Or is there something you see the team philosophically needing to change to get them to a place where they can beat those kind of teams?
I don't think a system needs to change, and we'll find out and talk more as it goes along if they need to add somebody at the deadline to bolster that and give them a chance. They haven't been overmatched, quote unquote, against some of those teams this year, but they still haven't found that edge to win. Like I said earlier in this show, that it is important, I think, mentally for them to find ways to go in those buildings and win, and beat these teams, because as well as they played against Dallas a couple of years ago in the playoffs and they were up 2-1, and they still found a way to lose that series. And I don't think people are going to believe the Wild as a contender in the playoffs until they get over that hurdle of winning a first round series. So no matter what they do in the regular season, there'll be question marks going to the playoffs, and that's fair because of the history. Do I think this is a team that could, break that streak? I do think they can. Absolutely. But, one thing to say they can, another thing to kind of go do it. But I think they really learned a lot from the last couple of years, chip on their shoulder from last season. A lot of the players that they were hoping for bounce back years, they're getting it. They have some relatively good health, and two superstars basically, who can kind of drive the ship offensively, and a Norris caliber guy in favor on defense. So I think they have a lot of pieces to win a playoff round, but they're not going to get a lot of believers until they go out and prove it, which is why I think I don't have an X they need to do like this at the deadline, or they need this kind of player to make a difference. I think just getting over that hurdle mentally and beating some of these teams in this season will be helpful. Even though playoffs are a different game and things change, I think it'll be good going into a 7-game series against a team that they'll have to play.
Yeah, it's a weird, double-edged sword, Joe, where there's really nothing they can do in the regular season to prove to me that they're ready to compete in the playoffs, right? That doesn't mean they can't do good things in the regular season that give us positive signs, but they could literally win the President's Trophy and it still isn't going to tell me that yep, they're ready for playoffs. I think all we need to do is get into the postseason, make sure that we're firing on all cylinders when we do, and then that first series, whoever it's against, that's going to tell us what we need to know. We really won't know until that first round, right? This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it. That makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just saying the things that could help them in that position when they're in the first round series. But like I said, they're not going to get a lot of believers until they actually go through that. And what better way than kind of exercising those demons for the first round, plus going up against a Dallas or Winnipeg or whoever they might play if they do get in that top 3 spot. That would be one way to get through it. And then all of a sudden that'll give you a lot of big boosts going into the next way.
Yeah, no, sorry. My tone might have thrown that off. I was definitely agreeing with you there. So we're on the same page. And to your point on what don't we do at the deadline, Cappy's Gas, a great bourbon hound like ourselves. Shout out, buddy. Do you think the reality of Boeser likely wanting to come here in free agency makes it tougher for Billy to give up much of anything to take him for an extra 2 months?
Well, I mean, are there I guess it kind of depends on where they're at the deadline. If there are injuries in the top 6, that all of a sudden a guy that you might need to fill a hole that you didn't think you had before. I think the question makes sense in terms of don't give away something for what you might be able to get quote unquote for free or just for cap purposes in the summertime. But this is a team that probably feels a lot of pressure to win now, right? And should prove to the fan base and the core to prove that they can win in the playoffs. So if there's a way to get somebody, whether I don't know if it's a Boeser, but somebody, and Brock Nelson's name has been thrown out a lot for other teams, and he'll be a team guy that contending teams will try to go after. If there's an injury or something that happens that creates that spot where they need some punch up front, then I wouldn't put him past it at all to try on that. I mean, and this is this is going to the fact that Vancouver won't make the playoffs or they won't be sellers or whatever. We don't know what'll happen at that point, but I think it all depends on what this team and the situation looks like more into March.
No, totally fair. Next one up, Evan Nowitzki. Why has Rantanen not been extended in Colorado? Is he planning on being a UFA or riding it out with the Avs?
It's a good question. I don't have any insider information on that one in particular about why he hasn't signed yet. To look at their cap space and see how much that they have left. I know he's kind of one of those really important players for them, a very versatile player and a guy that will probably be in top of a lot of teams' wish lists if he does make it to UFA.
Right.
But
probably
I think
going to Chicago, right?
Everyone who wants to be a UFA will go to Chicago to play with Connor Bedard. He needs two wings, right? So whatever.
That's right.
But yeah, I think they're trying to figure themselves out right now. The Avalanche, they've had a team that won the Cup a few years back, and they're trying to get Landeskog back, and they're trying to figure out what do they actually have here. And so if you're Rantanen, you're going to be getting a whole lot of money no matter what in the summertime. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're Colorado, you're like, well, what team do we have right now? Or what are missing holes? Whatever. You don't want to overcommit to everybody in your team for long term, not knowing where you're at. So how's Landeskog's health, and how reliable are some of the other guys?
Can Nichushkin stay in the lineup? Who knows?
Yeah, can you stay out of trouble? Can you stay in the lineup? What's your goaltending look like? So a lot of these things have to be play into account.
That was hilarious the other night when they were getting absolutely bulldozed. And it was like, all right, they have taken Georgiev out of the game for a Noonan. And then 20 minutes later, and Georgiev has re-entered the game. But I'll say, Joe, and everyone listening knows, I have zero insider access. So this is me just speaking off the dome. I feel like the conjecture the last couple weeks around the salary cap increase is probably a big factor in this. I would think that, I don't see a world where he's not going back to Colorado. And it's a matter of what's he going to ask for and what can the team stomach and where do they find a middle ground. But the amount that salary cap is going to go up is probably going to play a big role in where that ultimately lands. That's my gut. But hey, if he, like you said, Joe, if he ends up going to free agency, everyone's coming after him except for the Wild, because there's no chance they can afford him. But next one up from Made in Minnesota. Is the long-term Marco Rossi outlook favorable? Seems like he has the production, but not the all-in commitment from the Wild as far as his role. Something we've talked about quite a bit. I mean,
is his long-term outlook favorable overall as an NHL player? I think it is. I think I don't know if he's going to be a superstar in this league, but he's going to be a solid, reliable, productive center in this league, really strong two-way guy. And again, I more think along the lines of the idea that if the Wild continues to believe in him, there'd be more of a bridge deal thing versus a long-term deal out of RFA. Just my sense. But yeah, I mean, I think it's early in his career and he's gone through a lot of different hurdles, but I think he's going to be an NHL player for a long time. It doesn't matter of how does that look with the Wild. Do they both play ball and do a short-term bridge deal as they see? I'd want to see what Urov can do before all of a sudden I ship Rossi out, right? I think a bridge deal would be smart for both sides, and Rossi's going to get paid if he continues to produce the way he is capable of producing. So I think the long-term future of him is bright. It's more so of, I don't think it's going to be a long-term deal this summer if they do sign him.
No, I completely agree. I think there's no world where this doesn't end in some kind of a bridge deal. The exception being if someone just comes to you with a deal that you can't turn down, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like the Cole Perfetti type deal makes a ton of sense, right? Give him 4.5, give him 2 or 3 years, whatever you think makes the most sense. works for both sides, gives him a chance to prove himself either to stay or get more money somewhere else, gives you the time to evaluate the other guys and see, hey, is Rossi a 1C? Is he a 3C? Like, what the heck is he? But we'll see. Last piece here then for our great friends at Waggle.
Final question brought to you as always by our good friends at Waggle Golf. First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com. Throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order.
No Waggle golf foursome here, but we're going to do a Waggle Thanksgiving foursome. Joe, your call. Are we drafting the 4 best Thanksgiving foods or the 4 worst Thanksgiving foods?
Best.
All right, we're going 4 best, and I'll let you lead off. We're going 4 best, and I think the one distinction I'll make is I feel like turkey is too generic.
Yeah.
Like it's either got to be white meat, dark meat, specific cut of it, something like that. But go off. Anything that's part of the Thanksgiving meal, what is your one overall?
I will say this because it's something I've loved for a long time, and my wife makes a killer dish of this. It's green bean casserole. That's something I'm going to go.
Bitch.
I'm going to go. I'm not going to go plain
No one
Jane
takes
here.
it that early. That's my favorite dish. Period.
Yeah. If I'm going to have my one to pick from, I'm going to take that, right? Okay.
Wow.
Take the turkeys out of
I
it.
didn't think that was going to go that early. Oh, that's
tough shit, man. What's your pick?
My pick then is absolutely stuffing. And we're not talking the bullshit like boxed stuffing, store-bought. Like you got to get the real shit. It's got to be in the bird. You don't just like throw it in the microwave or in the oven solo. Good, legitimate stuffing from the bird. Awesome.
Okay. I would have to go next. Mashed potatoes.
Okay.
Stick with that, and not just mashed potatoes, but gravy and maybe garlic mashed potatoes, like a different kind of thing. Yeah, I would go with that route.
That's fair. Okay. I can understand that. On the turkey front, then, I am going specifically with the dark meat in the turkey. Dark meat is the absolute way. And of course, like gravy will be on that. Keep your cranberries away from my turkey. No one, don't allow that. But yes, the dark meat of the turkey is vastly superior to the white meat.
Yeah. Well, I might disagree with you on that one. But, but I thought turkey was off the table. So
I didn't say it was off the table. I said you got to be specific with your picks.
Yeah. Okay. I'm equal opportunity with the turkey. So we have turkey or stuffing.
Well, if you feel that way, then you might want to take the white meat.
Yeah, I'll take the white meat.
Have some form of turkey on there.
Yeah. White meat.
So I got 2 options I'm choosing between here, and they're both kind of niche picks. I'm gonna go. Oh man. All right, I'm gonna go with the one that I think will appeal to the crowd more because it's kind of a tie for me. I'm gonna say, we'll label it as bread, but like the crescent roll, the bread, the bun, whatever you call it, it is important. It's critical for me because all I do is butter that bitch up, and what I'm gonna do is use that as just a vacuum for the entire plate. Whatever's left there, I'm just scooping all that up and I'm eating it with the roll. It's important.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, go on more carbs. Go for it.
Oh, I get one more pick. So yeah. Okay. I'll be able to pick both. Sweet.
Yeah. No, like we already had 4, aren't we? Are we at 4?
Nope. We got 3 each.
Okay.
So yeah. You need one more.
All right. Tough one. I don't know what else is left. Not sure what's left. What's left?
I mean, I don't want to help you here. I mean, there's definitely things left. There's corn. You know what? I'll give you the win. I don't care. I'll tell you. You can definitely pick desserts.
I'd rather have the corn than the desserts, quite frankly. I'm not a big pie guy, so I'll take the corn and we'll wrap that up.
I'm not a huge dessert guy, but as long as it's not pumpkin pie, like give me whatever pie, I'm totally in. There's a lot of people. I'm not into this, Joe. Have you had like the sweet potato dish that has like marshmallows on top of it?
No.
It's not my game, but I've seen it at like several different locations. So it's not just like oh, this is what my family does. Because actually, I don't think my immediate family even does that one. But okay, he goes corn. My other niche pick that like will either win or lose this for me. How do you feel about the innards of the turkey itself, Joe? The liver, the liver, not awesome, but the gizzard is incredible. Gizzard's awesome, and actually the heart's not bad either. But maybe we're just weirdos. Yeah. Savages from Minnesota. Have you had the gizzard before?
No, I have not.
Oh, man. No. All right. Well, there's probably like 10% of people that are like, oh, you're totally right. And the rest are like, you're dumb. So I'll take it. Whatever. But all right, there we go. Joe says green bean casserole, mashed potatoes and gravy, white meat, turkey, and corn. I got stuffing, dark meat turkey, roll, crescent bread, whatever, and gizzard. Done and done.